Have you ever heard of a religion that doesn't allow converts, keeps its sacred texts hidden, and believes in reincarnation, yet identifies with Islam? They're called the Druze. You've probably never heard much about them, and that's by design. But right now, in the mountains of southern Syria, this mysterious group is facing deadly repression. Let's break it all down: who they are, what they believe, and why they're being killed in Syria right now. The Druze religion started in the early 11th century in Egypt, under the rule of the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim Bayamr Allah. He was a controversial figure, so much so that some of his followers began to believe he wasn't just a caliph, but a divine manifestation of God. This belief caused a massive theological split from mainstream Islam. A secretive new sect formed, one that would come to be known as the Druze. But almost as quickly as they appeared, they shut their doors. In 1043 CE, the Druze officially closed conversion forever. No outsiders could join. To this day, you're either born Druze or you're not Druze at all. Their religion is esoteric. Only a small elite class, called the Kukul, or the wise, are allowed to read the sacred texts and study the deeper meanings. The rest of the community follows basic principles, but the inner theology is a mystery to nearly everyone. The Druze believe in reincarnation. They believe the soul is eternal, passing from one body to the next in an endless cycle of rebirth. There is no hell or heaven. Your reward or punishment is the life you're born into next. They also revere many figures outside of traditional Islamic theology, including Plato, Pythagoras, and other ancient philosophers. Because of these beliefs, the Druze have often been labeled heretics by both Sunni and Shia Muslims. They've been persecuted for centuries, often forced to hide in mountainous regions to survive. Today, most Druze live in Lebanon, Israel, and Syria, with the largest Syrian population based in the Esoteric province in southern Syria. And that's where things have become dangerous. For decades, the Druze in Syria lived under the Assad regime, first under Hafez al-Assad, and later his son Bashar al-Assad. The regime gave them a degree of autonomy, and the Druze stayed mostly neutral during the Syrian civil war. But now, everything is changing. In 2023, for the first time in years, massive protests broke out in Soweto, led by the Druze community themselves. The reason? Crippling poverty, skyrocketing inflation, and growing anger at the Assad regime's corruption. Druze religious leaders, youth groups, and even local militias began publicly denouncing Bashar al-Assad. In a country where dissent is often met with violence, this was a bold and dangerous move. The regime responded the way it always does, with force. Protesters were beaten, abducted, and shot. Some were disappeared. Armed clashes began between Druze fighters and Syrian regime loyalists. The once peaceful province of Soweto is now on the brink of open conflict, and the world is barely paying attention. But this isn't the first time the Druze have been under attack in Syria. In 2015, the Al-Qaeda-linked group Jabhat al-Nusra stormed Druze villages in northern Syria and killed over 20 people. In 2018, ISIS launched a devastating attack on Soweto, killing over 250 Druze civilians in a single day. And now, in 2025, despite the Assad regime being overthrown, the Druze are still being slaughtered. Why is this happening? Because the Druze don't fit into any simple category. They're not Sunni, not Shia, and not Christian. They don't follow the typical script of allies and enemies. They're a small group with no outside protector. They don't have a militia like Hezbollah. They don't have Western backing. They don't have oil or political leverage or trending media coverage. They just have each other and their mountain strongholds. But even that might not be enough this time. In the end, the Druze are more than just a mysterious sect. They are a living example of survival, a community that has held on to its identity through centuries of persecution. But that survival is now on the edge of collapse. So the next time you hear about Syria in the news, if you hear about it at all, remember the people of Suwaida. Remember the Druze, because right now, they're not just keeping their religion alive, they're fighting to stay alive.